My name is Miriam Yerushalmi, and I've been through my journeys. I came from, and still come from, a family that at one point left Israel, was raised in California. I actually was born in Israel. And we were somewhat traditional, you know, for cultural reasons, connected to some of the spiritual activities as Jews. And well, after a while, I started, you know, seeing the world and getting to know the challenges of relationships, the challenges of dealing with this world, and I started really searching deep within me, like, you know, what's the point of us being here? Why am I born here? What's the whole reason for my being? And thank God, in my search, and I connected to Judaism on a whole different level, not just culturally, and I started actually studying Judaism. And years later, I still felt there was something yet I needed more to learn about Judaism, that I felt like it was almost just too much of a surface teaching of like the mission statement and what's my purpose of being here on this earth as a Jew. And thank God it led me to the teachings of Hasidus, which is the deeper teachings of the Torah, that answered a lot of my questions, put like a lot of missing pieces to the puzzle together, and I became Chabad with my husband together, and started really understanding more about the spiritual practices and more about, you know, what I can do to make the world a better place, and not just for the wisdom of God to just satiate my thirsty soul, that my soul really, and the way my Creator made me, was to be able to share God's wisdom with others. And so I started teaching classes and making CDs and actually making some books. And in my journeys, I would constantly see messages of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that not only was my mission to spread the light of Torah to my own people, but that one of the most incredible, like, aha moments when I actually was at the Ohel, where the Rebbe's videos were broadcasted, and I had just been finishing one of my books, and I saw a video with the Rebbe teaching that how important it is. And after that video, I kept getting messages from his letters. I would hear a lecture, and I then went into greater depth and started studying a little bit more from Rabbi Ginsburg's and his work on the 7 noachdite laws. And so I decided then and there that if the Rebbe was in a video and I happened to be there hearing it, that I would make more of an effort to do what I can to share what I know, not only to my people, but God's people. Everyone that is on the face of this earth is His people. And I can tell you that through studying the 7 noachdite laws, I actually came to appreciate the Torah even more. And it's been a journey, because we see what's been going on in the world right now. And I remember one of the letters the Rebbe that I had read was stated that had we had done more on the 7 noachdite laws, that the Holocaust would not have happened. And it makes sense, right? I mean, but reading it like that, so boldly and so matter of fact, jolted me. Like, can you imagine the responsibility we all have to protect the world from the evil that's going on. And now more than ever, I mean, had we not seen 9/11, had we not seen what happened in the last month or two, then, you know, we're now even more driven and even more passionate about sharing God's Torah, God's wisdom, to bring about a more benevolent and kind world. Please God, with more peace and more love. And it does actually...
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you're aware, there is an official rabbi of the United Nations whose job it is to teach Sheva mitzvahs to the representatives of the UN and to teach Torah to there's many, many Jews there who act as translators, which if you think about it makes a lot of sense.
Beautiful.
And he gave a session on this course, I think a day or two ago, where he literally stated one of the greatest things he's seen, and you could cry when you hear this, and he regarded this as a huge plus, and he said it's incredible that he has to look at it that way, that the Secretary General admitted that what happened October 7th was horrible. And that was a phenomenal step forward, he said, from the past whatever. That's the level of people he's dealing with.
Wow.
And for them to admit it was bad, right? So, yeah, the work of Sheva mitzvahs is incredibly necessary, even on a baby, simple level.
That
is there,
that is,
you know,
is so good to hear. That's so good to hear. Wow. So,
with your
you know,
permission, I'd like to send the book you sent to me to him.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, that would be amazing and would mean the world to me, because I feel like I've been inundated as a counselor and as a CEO, president of a nonprofit organization giving free therapy for people who can't afford or maybe not getting the right type of therapy, which I guess I can tell a little bit about myself. When I was in the process of getting my degrees, my mindset was to help the people of the world, and especially those who couldn't afford the proper care. And once I started studying the deepest teachings of the Torah, ingredient in a lot of marriages and in a lot of relationships and in a lot of relationships in the therapy room. And I've been trying to put God back into the therapy, or at least a little more into the therapy room. So I have a nonprofit organization called SANE, which in Hebrew, the word Neshama, save and Neshama, Endowment, is the word for soul. And in short, it's called SANE. And we have a website, and there are hundreds of therapists willing to volunteer with people. And I actually have trained some of them to have the more Torah perspective on how to use the Torah as a roadmap for the healing that one can do, mind, body, and soul, especially when directed by a CBTT counselor. We have seen really amazing results with the people we've been working with. So when we think about the whole purpose of our existence, we know that God wants us to create kind of a heaven on earth, for God to be in the world and us being co-creators and giving us the opportunity to feel the joy of creation. So He perfectly made the world imperfect for us to complete by engaging in the world in a holy manner. And I remember learning in one of the Pirkei Avot that one of our like beautiful teachings is that we have to use the Torah almost like, like a flashlight, and flash flood with this amazing brilliance of the Torah to every corner of the world, so that whatever darkness is lingering in different parts of the world, that through our spreading the Torah, that we can bring the light of God's wisdom to the nations of the world. And the wording that is used for the endeavors that we have to do is from the word cherev, which cherev in Hebrew means a sword. So that with the light of Torah, it's almost acting like a sword to banish the darkness. There's a Hasidic teachings that says that if there is no light, meaning if there is darkness, that means that there's an absence of light. And there's no real reality to the darkness. It's just that there's an absence of light. So when I started learning that this is my mission, I couldn't be satisfied with my own spiritual endeavors for me, myself, and I, then I was very motivated to do what I can to share what so helped me. And let me give you a little background about my journeys and how the deep teachings of the Torah helped me and have been helping not only my own people, but the 7 noachdite that are out there. And before becoming religious and before becoming observant of these beautiful laws of the Torah, I used to be very depressed, couldn't handle the crisis of the world, and I was just very, very, what would you say, empathic. So I had a lot of compassion for the suffering of others, but then it would cause me great suffering, and I couldn't almost breathe through the challenges of life. And when Hasidus actually started teaching me that that my mind and my heart is a sanctuary for Hashem, and that there were key steps I needed to take so that my mind wouldn't be so easily, disturbed or broken from the challenges of life. One of the teachings that the Rebbe from Lubavitch teaches us that, do you remember the story in the Bible where Yosef HaTzadik, who was thrown into a pit because they were waiting to decide what they're going to do with this brother of theirs, and they actually put them in a pit as they were deciding, and the way the sentence was written in the Torah was kind of interesting. Like, why would you mention, like, this is a holy book, that there was a pit and there was no water and scorpion and snakes were in this pit. Like, if something's written in the Torah, everything is a lesson for us, a message for us today. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe actually said that our mind is likened to a pit. And if we don't fill it up with God's wisdom, which in Judaism we're taught that the Torah is likened to water, right? Without water, we can't live. So that when our mind is not filled up with God's wisdom, then our mind can be taken over by an alien, snake-like, very disturbing thoughts, and could, take up the space of our mind. I liken it to a, God forbid, if someone has someone who has this roommate that was supposed to pay rent and doesn't pay rent, living rent-free and getting away with a lot, and really, almost taking over your space. So this evil inclination is likened to the inner struggle, the inner psychic warfare that a person goes through because of the lack of having God's wisdom, stationed in their mind. And so when I started learning that, I could relate and understand, what now my work was to do so that I can, redeem my mind from these, alien-like, negative streaming thoughts that were actually affecting my emotional stability. And we know, and Hasidus teaches us, that the mind and what we think about actually creates and gives birth to healthy emotions. So when we are going to be looking at these 7 noachdite laws, these 7 noachdite laws actually reflect the 7 emotional character traits called sefiros. They are our soul powers, our 7 emotional soul powers that are a byproduct and an offspring, as it were, of what and how much we develop in our soul powers of our intellect. So we have the godly intellect, and the more we learn Torah, the more we understand the deeper meanings of the 7 noachdite laws, the more we exercise our mind in that way, then the birthing of these 7 beautiful spiritual soul powers of ours get developed. Once we have more self-mastery and once we have more self-regulation, then that actually then impacts our relationship with our spouses, with our children, and with everyone around us, because we become a walking Torah, as it were. We become a divine manifestation of goodness and kindness that is what we're here for. Interesting study, actually, by Dr. Shara Lazar, who actually looked at the brains of people and took pictures of them for actually 30 years, and she interviewed them. And she saw that people who prayed, meditated, learned, that their brain, after year of studying the pictures of their brains, that what normally happens as one ages wasn't happening to them. Their brains actually defied the natural order of things, because normally at age 26 your brain starts to diminish in its size and in its power, unless otherwise being used in this way. Then what she found was that the cortex lining of these groups of people that were praying and meditating and learning, that they actually defy nature. Their brain was actually growing in size. The cortex lining was thickening. She also saw that there was more neurotransmitters between the brain and the heart, so that the brain had more power to override the natural order of the emotional component of their brain. Because normally the limbic part of the brain, which is connected to the emotions, runs 3 to 4 times faster than the rational part of our mind. So those who studied and used their brain in this way were able to speed up the process of their rational mind so that they can override the negative emotions that are, usually faster than the rational mind. She also interviewed them. She saw that they were less depressed, they didn't have anxiety like the control group. She also saw long-term they had less dementia and less Parkinson's and all kinds of aging of the mind problem. That across the board, when we sharpen our mind, period, how it affects our emotional well-being, how much more so when we're really delving into the godly wisdom, giving us the secret ingredients, how to maximize our brain soul, powers, and our holy emotional soul powers. So, without further ado, I'd like to look into the 7 noachdite laws and see how it relates to these 7 emotional faculties. And I have them, Baruch Hashem, thank God, written in this book. I don't know if I did show you. It's the Kindness in Marriage. This is a universal edition, which at the end has a special section to help us understand how we can develop more emotional mastery by understanding the 7 noachdite laws. And then, again, once we have those spiritual powers more and more unleashed, yes, unleashed, because it's all there inside of us. We were created with all of these powers. The more we sharpen our mind, the more we are capable of redeeming, as it were, and letting those beautiful soul powers of ours to become more manifest and not hidden. So when I read this, first of all, it was very interesting because I happened to be teaching one of these classes, and it was before Shavuot, which, let me tell you, it was just by miracle that I had read in one of the sichas of the Rebbe that had Yitro not accepted the Torah, meaning because he was a non-Jew, and he was, ensconced in like the worst of the worst, like idol worshiping, and like more than one. He was like the leading idol worshiping man. And when Moses came to Yitro, and Yitro accepted the Torah and threw away all his idol worshiping, that needed to happen in order for God's revelation at Har Sinai. Had that not happened, we would have had to wait a little longer, and who knows how much longer. So I was giving this seminar, and I was studying that, and I'm like, wow, here I am right before Shavuot, teaching the 7 noachdite laws, and knowing that this year there will be way more blessings in the world because of the people who are connecting to the Torah's 7 noachdite laws. And here are they. We know that the first one is a belief in God. And this belief in God is first and foremost to realize that we are not supposed to worship idols. And this relates to the level of what's called the sefiros, which is, again, a soul emotional power that we all have been gifted. All of us, all of humankind. And this soul power, our ability to be more godlike and to be more kind, streams into our consciousness more, streams into the manifestation of our kind behaviors more through our committing not to worship idols. And when you think about the number one thing that God is God is kind. And we are taught that we're role modeling. We're trying to emulate God's ways. As He is kind, we should be kind. And I was once learning with Rabbi Ashlag from the book Inner Works, where in one sentence I was just like had another one of those aha moment where he writes that we really need to do one thing. And that one thing is to be more like the one God. And what is the one God like? Kind. God takes pleasure in being kind. And so the message was for us that the focus, the one thing of the one God, is for us to take pleasure in being kind, to take pleasure in being giving. And yes, sometimes it's way easier to be kind to a stranger. Sometimes it's a little difficult when, someone's shortchanged you in your own relationship with someone you know. You have certain expectations, they're not meeting your expectations, and there's judgment, there's hurt feelings, there's the ego, there's waiting, there's a lack of forgiveness, and then a person can get very stuck in their relationship and keep waiting until the other makes the move. And I always say to people, my dear soul sister, soul brother, we didn't leave the heavens above for the things that some of us keep waiting for. We came down here on this earth to be one of God's limbs, to be God's limb in kindness, because that's the number one thing. We had everything and every kind of pleasure up in the heavens above, and our mission here is to really enjoy being more godlike and be more kind and be more giving. And the Hebrew word actually, interesting, if you would think of the 7 noachdite laws, you would think 7 and also the 7 sefiros that are connected to the 7 noach laws, that the first one would be love, because like the whole world is connected to and driven by and it's such a natural human need to feel loved and to want to be loved. But honestly, we could see by looking at this first sefira of our emotional makeup is not love. It's chesed. It's kindness. And what are we taught? If you look at the word ahava in Hebrew, it has the word of hav, which is to give. Giving leads to the creation of love. And a lot of philosophies out there are very backward. Oh, you love someone, then you give. No. The Torah teaches us, by learning this, that love is cultivated by giving. And the more you give of yourself, of course, with boundaries, the whole explanation of the sefirot, which we will go more into, is we need balance in all of the 7. And each one, kind of like, if you want to give your child a zillion cookies and 10 scoops of ice cream and 2 pieces of pie, you think you're being kind. But kindness, not appropriated in the measure for the recipient, can be a destructive force. People who give, but they don't have the boundary of taking care of themselves, going to sleep, making sure they eat. That kindness without the boundary, without the restriction, is actually not a kindness to oneself. So the second sefira, which is from the second of the, so thankful to Rabbi Ginsburg, who actually allowed me to quote him in my book, is to honor God. And how do we honor God? That we're not going to be disrespectful in any way toward God, but also we realize that these 7 noachdite laws, this one is the second one, means that, and is connected to the, oh my gosh, 1 second. Sorry, someone's coming in. Sorry about that. I got misplaced here. Okay, here we are. Oh my gosh. This is very strange because, oh, here we are. Okay, so the second one is got Gevurah. That's the next sefira, and that has to do with refraining from murder. And of course, when you're refraining from murder, you need a lot of restraint. And this is the respect for human life. And this has to do with self-discipline. This has to do with strength. And this has to do with might. And Gvura, as I said, is needed. If you're too of a forceful force of kindness, and you don't have that self-restraint, then you have an imbalance of your soul, your soul powers. The explanation of, because most of us aren't murderers, at least.
Hopefully.
My gosh. But we know that you can really see, even when you're looking at the 10 Commandments, and when we, the Jewish people, are not murderers. Oh my gosh. Like, why out of these 10, even of the 10 Commandments, and of course of these 7, that it would be like one of the main ones of the 10. So the teaching is that people can murder people's souls, as it were. You shame someone, you belittle them, it whitens their face, they feel like they have, they feel crushed, they feel, and as a therapist, and I've seen forever and ever, like how people from 20 years back, 40 years back, 60, even 80-year-olds that come to me, and they still remember the shaming experience as a child. They're still crying over it. They still are broken from it, unfortunately. So we see that how important it is. Even science is showing us that if, like, a person hears even one bad word against them, that they can actually frazzle the brain circuit. Just one word, let alone, God forbid, many words, that could really affect a person and be of such a trauma that they actually can lose the power of their mind until they get serious help from their post-traumatic stress disorder of having been humiliated and shamed. And this day and age, with what's going on in Twitter, Facebook, and all these like social medias where everyone's like saying it as it is, and really I feel bad for this generation, for the kids in high school and what they must be going through without these laws to protect the youth. So the third one is tiferes, and tiferes is what is the necessary ingredient, and it relates to the not stealing and refraining from thievery, and having this sefirah, this soul power of ours, our power of compassion, then gets unleashed and developed when we really protect, and when we feel responsible and do what it takes to protect the rights of others. And tiferes is a balance between the chesed and the gevura. Chesed is the kindness. You want to go, go, go. You want to give, give, give. Gevura says you need to restrain. You need to restrain. Take care of yourself. You need money for yourself. Don't give charity. It's like the perfect, beautiful balance between the go, and give, and the restraining is the tiferes. Property of others, you're actually tapping into your very powerful, compassionate soul power. You're tapping into the ability to balance your soul power of giving versus the restraining. And Chassidus teaches us that we want more, of course. It's not like a 50-50 balance. Just like God is forever giving, and he does have a little, gevura there. But he's mostly chesed. He's mostly kind. And he has his moments for justice and his moments to use, the gevura side of him. And so we too, we're not trying to be 50-50. We're trying to be mostly kind. And there are places where we have to restrain and balance that kindness so that we have a healthy lifestyle. The next one is netzach. And netzach has to do with really refraining from profaning God's name. And netzach in Hebrew comes from the word nitzachon, which is a victory. The ability to endure, to overcome obstacles in your life, to not let the life around you drown you, to not let the people around you who may not be acting kindly to you, to suffocate you and your kindness. How many people give up sometimes? They say they're so kind, but they're not getting feedback or the same kind of treatment back, so they feel crushed and they almost have a heart wall, and they can't be kind as much anymore. They can't trust humanity anymore, and they let what's going on around them snuff out their light and their beautiful soul power of netzach. So imagine you're just making an effort to respect God in this way, and these soul powers are being unleashed. Hod actually represents from the word hod, modeh, which is like thankfulness and gratefulness. It also helps a person reach humility, and this comes from the law of refraining from idol worship. When we respect God and we respect humanity, we're actually becoming humbled by God's omnipotent power. And when we gaze more at his greatness and we feel abashed, like unbelievably humble. I was dealing with a little child who was having a very difficult time, with the process of becoming the better version of himself. Just a young boy. And I said to him, look at the sin of the golden, the purpose of that, God designing such a situation that they can so easily fail. And he meant it to happen that way because he needed the people to feel humbled by the mistake. Why? So that they would be a open and vessel to receive. When they maybe got the first Torah, they could have felt maybe so arrogant and so proud. We got saved from the Egyptian slavery. We are God's people. And God knew, no, you need to be humbled. You can't stay at that state. And so the falling prey to the heir of Rav, who had convinced them to do the golden calf, was purposely designed by God to happen, just like Adam and Chava also, because we need to fall. We need to have mistakes. We need, in Hebrew it says, Yerida letzorach aliyah. We need to have these falls, Yerida, letzorach, for the purpose of, aliyah, to be greater, to become higher in stature. Why? Because the middle step of humbleness. This is Hod. So the next one is Yesod, and that is the sphera that is helps us bond, helps us connect, help us have relationships with others. So, and it's interesting, this is connected to the law of respecting creatures and refraining from eating the flesh of a living animal. And it's just fascinating to, when you look at it this way, you connect it, actually, you bond to it, because it's like you're respecting all creatures, and you're exercising that soul power, then that unleashes your soul power to connect and bond and have a relationship with the people in your life. Because one exercising of one soul power ignites and strengthens that soul power in an exponential way, in a varied and myriad of ways. So, the Torah is not linear. It's not one thing and one thing only, and it's going to connect you to one thing. It actually helps you blossom on multi-dimensions. So then there is Malchut, and Malchut is royalty and dignity. And many of you know that, please God, the Davidic dynasty that hopefully very soon around the corner, and the world will come to that eternal peace, all of us together as one, that this, in order to have such a royal and dignified existence on the face of this earth, the beginning is when we establish a judicial system, and when we respect that we need this judicial system to keep the world in a good place, and to keep it functioning, and to keep the laws in order. So we endeavor to do whatever we can in whatever country that we live in to abide by the laws of the land, and all of a sudden, that part of our royalty, our soul power, helping us become even more dignified, becomes more and more easy for us to accomplish by really holding strong to these 7 noachdite laws. I really hope that the level that I was teaching at made sense to you all, and that you could see the connection between the law and your soul powers. And I invite you to delve more into it and study more, so that you have access to sharpening your godly soul powers of your intellect. And so that the more you develop that, the more the offspring of these 7 beautiful soul faculty, emotional powers of yours will become redeemed. And I always tell people, you don't have to go to the moon and take a space shuttle out there and try to find the you that you've been waiting for. It's all there. And the 7 noachdite laws help you unleash those beautiful, godly soul powers of yours. And I have to say, with what's been going on with the stressors of life, the stressors of relationships, a lot of people actually have challenges, because of the way they were raised. They have experienced the trauma of neglect, or they have experienced the trauma of seeing other relationships not work. They have experienced the heartache. They have experienced the shutdown. Their heart is buried. Now, we know that all of us are on this earth to circumcise our heart. Our heart, at a given point, does have blockages. And inside our heart is where our godly soul powers are. So when we partake in studying the deep secrets of the Torah with the roadmap of how to actually get to removing those barriers, including the barriers of our life challenges from our youth, or even just something that may have happened to us a couple of years ago, or right now with what's going on in the world. So what is the main super ingredient to unleash? These are the 7 noachdite laws. In particular, the more you meditate and use your mind to think deeply about these concepts, the fiery words of Torah act like a fire to melt away the barriers, so that what's already inside of you becomes, as I said earlier, more and more out in the open, more and more experienced, more and more felt, more and more than you're capable of actualizing, not just the emotional experience of feeling so close to God or feeling more aligned inside. That's amazing, and that's a must for its own sake. But the next level is to then more actualize these emotional, beautiful soul powers in your everyday actions with the people in your lives. So,
Miriam?
yes, any questions? I hope this is...
It was awesome. Very awesome.
Thank you. I pray for everyone, because the way in which even the message of Avram Avinu, because a lot of people, as I said earlier, just like really challenged by their relationships, by the things that are going on in the world. And Avram was commanded, Lech Lecha, Lech, you, can go to the real you. And the question was asked, why is all this mentioning about leaving behind the birthplace, the land, his house of his father? Because these 3 things, you would think, are like, why would you focus on what you're leaving behind? Why don't you focus on the golden Medina, or like where the promise? Why so much focus on the leaving behind? So the Baal Shem Tov actually taught us that these 3 things are like common denominators in all of our lives that can choke us and keep us from going to our real self. So the house of our father is the trauma that we had growing up. Maybe we didn't experience love. Maybe we didn't experience, camaraderie. Maybe we experienced rejection or neglect. But we can leave that behind, just like Abraham, who had a wicked father that didn't care. He was going to bring him to the king to be killed. He was able to leave that behind and become Abraham. The birthplace represents the genetic predisposition towards specific character traits. You were born with a lot of fire. You have a lot of fiery, angry, anxious temperament. That's your nature. But that nature of yours actually is, once it's channeled, once it's developed and redeemed in its potential, it's an actual gift that, just like fire can burn, but and a whole forest can be crumbled to pieces, but fire's good. Fire's energy, fire's heat. So the same thing, you might be born with a personality trait that you think that's it, I'm damaged goods, or I went through trauma, I'm forever, damaged goods. No, you can leave that behind and become the real you. The Torah teaches us. And in fact, what you've left behind actually was your stepping stones to become the real you. Because if God didn't want you to go through that, then he wouldn't have allowed it to happen. But God purposely designed those things of your past to actually make you, not break you. Abraham became Abraham because of what he went through. And the third one? Oh, sorry, what?
I'm sorry. The more of a challenge one has, it's a pointer, the greater their potential.
Yes.
If they didn't have the potential, they wouldn't be given the challenge, because you're never given a job that you're incapable of doing.
Yes. I want to say that the third thing is land. In Hebrew, land, eretz, has the root word of larutz, which is running toward escapism, running toward bad habits to escape. Because of whatever traumas or what lack we had as a child, we can get into these bad habits. And we can leave those behind and run toward God, and run toward the truth, and run toward redemption, and run toward the incredible powers that are lying dormant or not as revealed as it could be by taking the teachings of the Torah to a whole new level, and not be satisfied with the status quo of the basics, and go a little deeper and a little deeper, and hopefully really access your soul powers.
We normally at this time, or actually a little earlier, say Tehillim and then offer prayers for Eretz HaKodesh, for the soldiers, for the hostages, for the people helping them, for the Jewish people worldwide who are under attack. If you'd like to join us.
Yes, before I do it, can I review the 7 real quick, so if people did not have a chance, or I can also send you this link?
I had it up. I had the page up with the 7. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, okay, great. Because the first one is respecting the family. I think because I was looking at the other list, which a friend of mine did in a beautiful, and it's interesting because I was looking at 2 of the books, and that's why I was like, what's going on? One of the books does not have it, even though I want to give her credit to it, and so that's where I wanted to just make
if you email it to me, I'll get it out to the group.
Okay, great, but it's so pretty. Her name is Ray Shagala. I don't know if you see it. It's
I had it up during your talk.
Okay,
I
great.
didn't see it.
No, I saw something, but at my age, you have to really look close.
Listen, you're a young kid. What do you mean your age?
Actually, I'm almost, I'm 57 and a half, you see, in these glasses.
You are a young kid.
Yeah, so this, okay. But I'm still still not used to, I have to use these glasses. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
No, listen, glasses are a mind. I've been wearing
glasses
blessing. Since I was 2nd grade.
Thank God.
There's nothing wrong with it. The Rebbe wore glasses. Little known fact.
May we all see the light. May we all see the light, and the Torah is our glasses to see more light.
In any event, can you see the screen? We're starting Perek Beis.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
I don't know if you can read it or read it from a Sefer Tehillim.
Beautiful. I'm actually having dinner, and then I have another class to teach, but I'm really going to say one Tehillim with you, and then I will, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I have a website, noachdite.org, where I have classes for free, and there is listed my books, and this one as well. Okay, I'm going to go get my Tehillim. Okay.
Okay. I'll send out her contact info for anyone interested. Or even better, let's see if we can get her to put it in the chat. If you can put your contact info, website, whatever, in the chat,
Let's
and people
see.
can grab it from there. Did you grab it? I don't know if you can see it.
In call
down the
messages.
bottom.
I see a heart.
All right, then don't worry about it. You'll just mail it to me.
Okay, I'll mail it to you. Thank you. Great. Thank you really for including me in this. I'm just very honored and so thankful to do my part to share. I had a whole day of camp, so I was like rushed to camp and came here and didn't want to miss the opportunity.
Okay, parent base. Whatever language you're comfortable with. But most people here are English speakers.
Okay. Why do nations gather and people speak futility? The kings of the earth rise up and rulers conspire together against Hashem and against his anointed. Let us sever their cords and cast their ropes from upon us. He who sits in heaven laughs. My master mocks them. Then he speaks to them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath. It is I who have anointed my king upon Zion, my holy mountain. I am obliged to declare, the Lord said to me, you are my son, I have this day begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, and the ends of the earth your possession. Smash them with a rod of iron, shatter them like a potter's vessel. Now be wise, you kings. Be disciplined, you rulers on the earth. Serve God with awe and rejoice with trembling. Yearn for purity, lest he become angry and your path be doomed. If his anger flares for even a moment, fortunate are all who put their trust in God, in him.
Amen.
Wow. That needs to be heard, huh?
We try to take Rambam that are, I guess you could say, Nogeya to what's going on. And we're adding slowly as we go. With Hashem's help, we, as I said to Rav David Yaakov, the UN rabbi, that I should be washing, we won't be washing, I won't be washing his hands, but I should be guarding the gates while you're doing your avoda tomorrow morning.
Wow.
Should only be good things. Okay.
I bless you and all your group. Continue doing your holy work. And again, I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miriam.
Right.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have an unknown. I don't know who you are. If you want to read 20.